India is doing really well at the World Team Championship 2019, and today if we beat Russia, we might well win the silver medal. A big part of the credit for this performance goes to our board number 1, Adhiban Bhaskaran. He has scored 5.5 out of 8, and after 3 out of 3 start, he has had 5 draws. So 5.5 out of 8 and a performance of 28-30, which is simply phenomenal. Looks like a very solid performance. However, nothing can be farther from the truth than that, because it was not solid. He was playing chess in the style that he's well known for, attacking, aggressive, and there were different sorts of games. But one thing that happened in the last 2 games was that he was completely lost. He was completely lost against Naiditsch in round 7, and he was a piece down against Naiditsch and Swiercz. So, and in both the games, Adhiban came back, and it was like impossible. I thought he would resign now, but he managed to save it. We are going to see the round 7 game against Naiditsch, but before that, I would like to say, when I see Adhiban in a losing position, it reminds me of this song from Hotel California. It's a very famous song, and I like it quite a lot, its lyrics. And because we call Adhiban the Beast, it goes something like this. So please pardon me if you don't enjoy my singing, it's not my forte. So, mirrors on the ceiling, the pink champagne on ice. And she said, we are all just prisoners here of our own device. And in the master's chambers, they gathered for the feast. They stab it with their stealing knives, but they just can't kill the beast. So yeah, that's what I like. They just can't kill the beast. It's always there, and this is the position that we have in front of us. Naiditsch is white, and he plays his last move, king to f3, and Adhiban goes for king d7, which is already a very, very risky decision, because white can now play rook g4 and force an exchange of rooks. If Adhiban wanted to avoid the exchange, he should have played f6 here. He is inferior in this rook endgame, but I think he can still hold. King d7 was a mistake, because after rook g4, he's just losing the game, according to me and my analysis. But he tried hard. He played his rook to g6, because if you take, then the white king is just very close to winning this pawn on h7. Now at least black has got a better pawn structure, but what counts more is white's king activity. He's able to get in to the king side over here, and after king g8 we reach a critical position where Naiditsch had to make an important decision here. What should white play here? And this is the question that I would like to ask you. Naiditsch sorry for that. Naiditsch thought for some time, I guess he might be under time pressure as well, and played the wrong move here. What do you do here? Please pause the video and try to think. Okay, I hope that you didn't fall for the same trap that Naiditsch fell. He played the move c4 here. Okay, we'll come to it later. Now, when you look at such a position and you see that you have possibility to play a3, b3, c3, even a4, b4, c4, f3, f4, h3, h4, you really start to get confused. What should I do? Because there are so many possibilities here, and it is quite possible that you're going to just get confused. However, what you should try to do is try to envision positions which are there in your mind as some kind of memory markers. Now, one position that I can envision is that after a4, I'm going to just make moves for white. b4, c4. If black does nothing, a5, then this is already winning, because I'm going to play now next b5, Okay, and if you take, this is already winning after a6 because a6 is coming. And to b5, if you do nothing still and you say, well, nothing's going to go wrong, then I go c5, ab, c6, and I win this way. So this is the first thing in your mind that should come when you are analyzing such a position, that if white is given all the moves, he might do this. The next thing which you start to realize is that if I start pushing my pawns, okay, this one, and here black realizes that, look, I have to do something, and he plays the move c6 in order to stop you from playing b5. Then you go say c5 here. Okay, you don't really you are not getting b5, but you put your pawn on c5. Then you play, when he goes king h8, you play f3, king g8. It doesn't, I wanted to play f5 and the king is on h8, so that's the reason why. King g5 here, take, king here, king e5, king e7, and I want to penetrate to d6, so I play the move h4 now. And this would be a draw if black would play h5, and you would say, you know, this is opposition, I cannot get in. However, the h5 pawn is now loose, so you can just go and pick it up. Otherwise, if you don't play h5 and you play something like h6, then after h5 you have to play a move. So if you go king d7, I'll go king d6, or I can even go king f5. In fact, that's much better. King f7, king f5. If you go to e7, I'm going to g6. If you go to g7, I go here, and I'm going to win this pawn here. Okay. And if you're going to just wait, like let's say king d7, then I go king f6 and I pick up the h7 pawn anyway. So this is the second position which you understand, that if I can force black to play c6 here, then this is my plan now. I want to play f4, f5, force him to take, and then get my king onto the queen side. Okay, fantastic. So in this way, what you understand is such complex positions you are breaking down into a futuristic position where there are certain positions that win, certain draw, and you want to aim for those positions. Okay, so one plan is clear. We have to clarify somehow the queen side situation and then play f4, f5. That is the only way, because otherwise when you go king g5, I'll go king g7, and somehow when you go back to the fourth rank, I can come king f6 and black king comes out. So the only way to push for a win is to push your pawn to f5 and then get your king to the queen side. Meanwhile, black always has waiting moves, you know, king h8, king g8, king h8. He's going to keep doing that. So from that point of view, you realize that the first move should clamp the black pawns in such a way that you get a lot of space, and at the same time black is forced in some situation to push his c pawn. That's the reason why the right move is b4. This is a typical clamping move. When your opponent's pawns are like this, even, you know, if the pawn was behind on a7, then b4 makes complete sense, because one pawn clamps three pawns. Now if you play c5, you can't do it anymore. a5, you can't do it anymore. And so after b4, black must decide what to do. So one possibility can be he says, I'll stay steady, I'll play b6. But then you go a4, and now he says, okay, I'll still stay steady. Now you go a5, and in this case what you have done is you have already created weaknesses on c6, c5. So even though d6 is not weak, now these squares are weak. So f4, f5, and now we rush to the queen side and we play h4. So now you have to, as black, either you have to give me this squares here, or you may have to push your h pawn when I can go and win it. So a variation could be something like this, and white space advantage wins because you lose the pawn. So you realize that b6 doesn't make sense. So the next move you come to is b5. And you say, okay, now black is also fighting for space. But there's an important difference that after a3, king h8, f3, f4, I'm going to do the same plan. I take h4, and once again you are in zugzwang, because if h6, h5, c6, king e5, and in fact even if you would have done something like say c6 check here, then after king e5, king e7, I have two waiting moves. I can play c3 here, okay, and you will have to, if you move the king here, I can get in, and if you move your king here, I can get in here. If you play h5, you will lose the pawn, and if you play h6, I will play h5. So everything works out for white after the move b4. If you would have played b4 in this position, everything works out perfectly. Let me just see if there are any other lines. Like if black waits, we already know that we are going to just gain space completely in the position, and then this is just lost, like c6, c5, king h8, f5, h4. And this is zugzwang, because otherwise the king gets in, or you play h5 and you lose the h5 pawn. Now Adhiban played the move c4 here, Naiditsch played the move c4 here, and it is Adhiban's move now. What do you do? Okay, I hope that you were able to understand that sitting tight doesn't help, because if now black gets the opportunity to play b4, this is going to be over. At the same time, you don't want to push c5, because we have seen that after f5 takes king g5, the king will just go and pick up the pawn over here. So the right move is a5. Well done if you found this move. Adhiban did it, and after this the position is drawn. Such a dominating position is drawn only because white didn't take the care of preventing this move a5. So b3, king h8, and now whatever you do, you cannot really succeed. f4 was tried by, what Naiditsch did was he improved his position completely, and Adhiban was careful not to touch his pawns. He kept them where they are, because he doesn't want to weaken c6 square by pushing this pawn, and he doesn't want to weaken the d6 square by pushing this pawn. King g8, h3, and now finally when this happens, h4, black can play even king f7 here is fine, but Adhiban played b6, and he's in time now, because after you take, now white to move. Yeah, if it was black to move, white would have won this, but white to move, h5, and now you go h6, and this is perfect opposition. Everyone is opposite each other, white cannot break through. Or you play king d5, I go king d7, I'm not going to let you pass, you will have to push your pawn, and I'll play h6. King f7 also worked here, because after b6 takes king e7, we reach the same position. In the game after b6, Naiditsch played king d5, but now this is simply a draw, because in order to win this pawn, you will have to exchange these pawns. Otherwise, black king will go and pick up the b5 pawn. So just a sample variation, something like this, and black is in time to get his own queen. In fact, black gets it first. So that's the reason why Naiditsch played king c6, king b8, b6, and after cb6, here the draw was agreed, because even though black can win the h5 pawn, it's a rook pawn and it will be a draw. Fantastic defensive effort by Adhiban, and especially this move, this position here is worth looking into. I would seriously recommend you to study Powerplay 5 by Daniel King. I'll put the link to buy it in the description below. This was a DVD that helped me tremendously. It's about pawn play, and Daniel King says that this move b4 is what players like Karpov and Capablanca love to make. It's called a clamping move, and I learned all about it in that DVD, and I think it will be very useful for you. So today, let's say in a matter of half an hour, India will take on Russia, and the beast will be up against Karyakin. Both defensive experts, Karyakin also known as Minister of Defense, but for me in my mind, the song will keep on playing. You just can't kill the beast. Good luck, Adhiban.